Caroline Strachan with Festive Road, and today we're here in conversation with Stuart Donnelly of Sixt. Hi Stuart, welcome.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
In fact, should I be calling you Stuart? I should probably be calling you King of Mobility.
Isn't
that how you're known?
I'm honoured. Maybe I should say the Queen of Travel.
Okay, so we're here to talk about travel management today. Which part of the managed travel approach would you like to talk about?
Well, people that know me well enough will know that I never take just one.
Okay.
So actually I'm going to take three topics and merge them together. So sustainability is a key topic for travel. Very well documented, but in actual fact, only 2% of global emissions comes from air travel. And yeah, a lot of people are talking about flight shaming, when in actual fact, more than 20% of carbon emissions comes from ground, from automotive. Okay. So sustainability is one point. I'm also maybe answering the why. The what and the why. Sustainability, digitalization, which I put into different categories around online booking tool compliance to avoid leakage, content availability, controlling costs through your preferred suppliers, and digitalization threatens a lot of that, especially in the ground category. Because of the plethora availability of different mobility options that are available in every city you go, there's a different app. And finally, traveler experience and well-being, which again is a big hot to trot topic, which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute, I guess.
So tell me some more. Like why? I definitely wouldn't have expected you to come on and choose one. I thought maybe two, but you've gone for three. That's all right. So tell me a little bit more about the why. Why have you chosen those three? Is it the overlapping, or is it that there's specific things in each one?
There's two reasons. The first is actually I often look at things from a solution perspective.
Okay.
And as opposed to a product or service, yeah? People buy because they need a solution. So why do you need a solution? Because you have a problem. And the problem, the burning platform, if you like, is the first point I would take from actually a survey that was conducted by ITM at the back end of last year. 102 travel managers completed the survey, and the question was, what are the top 10 priorities of the travel manager in 2020? And actually 7 of the top 10 are sorted effectively into those 3 buckets that I talked about: sustainability, traveler experience, well-being, and digitalization. So that would be the first point. The second, in terms of the why, is because again, looking at our proposition in terms of what we're doing, and how I would explain that succinctly is that our mission as Sixt is to digitally transform what we call the mobility ecosystem. It's a strapline we've adopted, and how we're effectively doing that is to consolidate all different types of mobility, which the terminology mobility is not known to everyone. It's effectively all methods of ground transportation: car rental, sharing, micromobility, scooters, bikes, taxi, public transport. Merge all of those into one online digital marketplace, what I also would affectionately call the super app.
So, wow, there was a lot in there. So let me make sure I understand mobility. So mobility is everything other than air travel.
Yeah, correct.
So if you need to, when you step out your door at home, all the way through to the hotel, the office, the whatever, and back again, everything other than air comes within mobility.
Absolutely.
And so if you're then thinking about digital transformation and the traveller experience, is it that you're trying to make that so much easier for the traveller?
Yeah.
So how are you making it easier, or how is the industry thinking about this from a traveller perspective, and then also from a sustainability?
Right.
You said if it's 20% ground transport, then you've got a lot of work to do to support sustainability goals, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, in actual fact, your question talks to very much the reason why I picked those 3 topics.
Okay.
Because I think those 3 topics are all very much interlinked, yeah? So how are we improving the traveller experience? We're effectively connecting all those different pieces of mobility into one digital solution. That's good for the traveller, because then they have a full range of options available to them in the city. When they're traveling, they can take all these different options. They're not always isolated only to the travel policy and that you must use the rental car company. that's available through the GDS. And I think that's a really big problem because invariably most corporates, they have an online booking tool. The content that's available in there typically is isolated to car rental, which is fine, but in many cities, especially in Europe, it doesn't make sense to rent a car when you land at, Heathrow, Schiphol, Charles de Gaulle, Berlin Tegel. It's better either to take a train or to take a ride. So we then provide that range of options. And whilst the rental car might be available through the OBT, when you arrive, maybe you're downtown, it's not, and that's then falling into the T&E category. And most corporates that I've come across are not really controlling that area too much. They don't have that much visibility. Maybe they might know the number, but they don't know how that breaks down and what the journeys and the routes are that people are taking. So what we help is to create transparency around that, consolidate that, and then for the whole traveler experience, like you mentioned, if you land in in Berlin, you might take a ride downtown. You may be at your hotel, and then you may need to go to the restaurant, or you may need to go to the local shop, maybe go to a meeting. Then again, you have the whole range of mobility options. You might want to take the train, as is outside, or you may need to take a scooter or a bike to the train. Yeah, or maybe there's a couple of you, therefore you take a car share option. So what that's doing, we believe, is that it is consolidating all those mobility options into one, which is improving the traveler experience. It's sustainably far more fair to the environment, because in many of those cases and a lot of places, I went with Paul recently to Brussels, which was on social media. And we posted that we took Eurostar, and we got into this big discussion about the carbon emissions. And when we looked at the carbon calculator, taking the train versus the plane was 95% lower on carbon emissions. Yeah, which we believe very much is doing our bit. And I think the other aspect in terms of sustainability is that a lot of those different options are much lower on emissions than simply hopping in a car and driving alone. Yeah.
Okay.
So
if I think of the sustainable choices, the train versus plane short haul, I think that's like probably one of the biggest, most obvious ones you can pick out.
Yeah.
But do you see much changing in the industry, maybe through technical enhancements of travellers truly being able to make the right decisions, carbon versus cost, throughout their whole journey? Is that maybe a change that you think is going to come this year, or how long will that take?
Yeah, I do believe it will happen. Will it change massively behaviours? Eventually. I think the first thing we have to start with is education. I often talk about the fact that 2 years ago in this industry, when I joined specifically the travel industry, there was a lot of talk then about sustainability, and I actually honestly felt that somebody else's problem. But it wasn't until I really got into the detail and understood the impact. 4.2 million people die every year of ambient air pollution. 2.4 million children in London and Birmingham go to school in areas which are considered dangerous by the World Health Organization. I have kids. Yeah, I'm now being, socially and being a parent, being responsible. So we're actually moving in that direction to try and help that education. So as of Q2, Q3, IT always takes longer than you think, so Q3 for sure probably. We're looking to enhance the functionality of our digital solution so that when a traveller is moving from A to B, they can search their destination and it will search all available options within our app, and it will then return the results of the option in terms of cost, time, emissions, and even calories. So then people can make those type of informed decisions. And I think, slowly but surely, it's not going to change overnight, but education is key.
I love you've got calories in there as well, so it brings the well-being piece in.
Absolutely.
So if you were thinking of the travel manager community and the 3 topics that you've chosen, is there any specific advice you would give them as they look at their programs in 2020?
Yeah. focus on mobility.
You're not allowed to say that.
Sure.
Come on.
No, I mean...
Why should they focus on mobility? Because there's like 100 things they should focus on.
Yeah. You know, I was having this conversation at BTS with a few people because the challenge we always will face is that we're always competing as an industry, as a business. We're competing with air, hotel, TMC, where the budget is typically far bigger, right? And understandably, you know, when I look at my bank statement, I look at the, everything with 3 or 4 digits, not, single or double. So the challenge we have is to get that topic on the agenda. But I think more and more people are thinking about the topics that we've described, right? I mean, that's the reason why I start with the problem, and the problem is the issues that people are focusing in terms of priorities. So whilst I think my underlying message would be to travel managers that whilst it may not always be the priority, when you start to add up the spend from all the different aspects and start to try and investigate it and realize you can't because you don't have enough visibility of it meaning not only car rental, but merging in taxi, black car, meetings and events, transportation, rail, parking. Parking is my big one, because how many travelers drive to the airport and leave their car at the car park and then fly off somewhere? But you never think about that in the category of mobility, but parking is. So if you look at all that together, then you might start to realize that's actually quite a big chunk. And then when you start to think about the travel experience and well-being, like you just highlighted with the calories, and effectively providing travelers, because it's all well and good spending 2.5K on a business class seat to fly from London to the US, but if at the other end, the experience when you get out of the plane, when you're a bit tired and a bit ratty, because of the time difference, and then you have to queue to get a car, when actually it's better if someone's standing there with a name board, takes you straight to your hotel, that's gonna have a much greater impact on the ultimate. It's the little things that count.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to say mobility, but I do believe that people need to think about it more. I think maybe that's the general concept is look at it more holistically, don't look at it in buckets.
Okay.
Yeah? Because actually, does it make sense to take a car rent or does it make sense to take a ride?
Yeah.
Most organizations think of those two things completely differently, and that's because we're the only ones that does all of it.
Yeah, which is linked back to the traveller experience where you started. So thank you very much for being here today. We really appreciate taking the time to speak to us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Queen of travel.
King of mobility.